Good morning. Today is Monday the 25th of August. Might I say the day between the 26th, if you will.
6th.
Yeah, that was weird. My tongue got stuck.
Happy birthday, Sam.
Thank
I
you.
think that's what he was waiting for. Happy birthday, Sam
you.
Yang. Should
It
we
is a-
sing a song?
No, thank you. Well, it's not my birthday today, but tomorrow is really, really good. Really, really great.
Why does it say Monday the 18th?
That was one of those, you know when you do this Easter egg things and you have to find what's wrong? Today is Angela Jang's birthday. I forgot to say happy birthday to her.
Today is Angela Jang's birthday.
Yeah, she said happy early birthday to you, and then I said, yeah, to you as well. That didn't go over well.
Today is Matt Jung's birthday.
It is. Good morning. Today is August the 25th of August, the day before the 26th. And why do I say that? No reason. This week is actually a very, very big week for our church.
No.
No,
It's just like you have like 4 birthdays.
No, there's one,
Happy
2,
birthday, Sam.
3, 4. I think there's 5 birthdays this week alone.
In our church?
I think so.
No, I don't think so.
I can name them off.
Okay, go.
Angela Jang, Matt Jung, Sam Yang, Charlie Kim, Esther Kim, and there's one more, I'm sure of it, but it's also Jacob Chang's birthday, who doesn't attend a church, I know. However, there's also another birthday in there. I know that for sure. I forget who it was. If it's you, I'm so sorry. But this week is a big week for our church. So happy birthday, everybody. On the 26th, I'll expect some things, like a text or something.
Yeah, what's your number? Give it out.
No, don't text me now, please. But, today we're talking about a topic that is maybe applicable to a lot of us that are listening. And so hopefully this is an encouragement and a help. And so I'm not going to say what that topic is until we get through this intro. So, Mr. Brian, please, let's roll the intro. Welcome to the Dear Church podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang. We have with us Pastor Eugene and Brian, who's with us. I think my new title is I have the world record for longest affirmation of faith scripture reader. 66 verses.
I mean, it was like a poem.
I mean, it was 66 verses. I have never seen anyone read more than 66 verses for scripture reading.
It's more like 33 verses.
I mean,
people looked at me for like an explanation.
Yeah.
yeah.
It wasn't a typo. I really want our church to start reading longer passages.
Oh, yeah. It was great.
Didn't you choke up a few times?
No. So there was one part where it was a little tough for me. A little bit. Like the turnaround. But then, like the remember the wormwood and the gall. But I said every word perfectly except for the last verse.
Yeah.
I said for instead of from. It was verse 66.
No, you also had a plural in there. It's fine.
No, I think I was perfect there. Except for that one.
It's okay. We'll see how Brian does.
But yeah, that is my new title, record holder. And it was great. I loved doing that. So today, Pastor Eugene, we are talking about a topic that our listeners may feel is applicable to their lives from the past or perhaps even now. And that is the feeling of being tired, or the feeling of being tired. Wait, does that make sense? Feeling tired. Dare I say burnt out. From the church. And I think this can result from a variety of different factors. There's the 80-20 rule that we've discussed before on this podcast, actually like 4 years ago. That people use to generally talk about churches and their membership. People say that 20% of the church membership does 80% of the serving or of the work. And if that's the case, which I'm not saying our church falls under that, because I don't think it does. But if that's the case, generally in the church, of course, people are bound to be tired, not only physically, but perhaps even spiritually. And this is where we hear the term burnt out quite often, which I think you have debunked in a sense. in a prior episode.
I don't know, debunked. I think people will still want to use it.
I've heard it, but you disagree with the word. And so this is a very applicable topic. And so I thought, well, perhaps Pastor Gene, before we get into the nitty gritty of this topic, since we talked about burnt out already, could you share with us why you disagree with the term burnt out? I know it's been a buzzword for Christians for many years, but you disagree with its meaning, to my understanding. Like
I mean, burnt out means you're completely like spent.
Yep.
You know, you're toast. And that can happen, by the way. I didn't say that it can happen. I just like how people use it. Like, I've been serving for this long and I'm burnt out. That means I gave and gave and gave and I don't have enough and now I have nothing to give. And I believe that it is a misnomer to a good degree, because while you could technically get burnt out, I think maybe 99% of the time, I should say 99.9% of the time, let's just say 100% of the time you're lying. Because if I say 99.9 people think it's them, no. I think the times where I've seen it is in the Old Testament, Elijah,
Moses,
New Testament, Jesus. But I think we should let's get into it, and let's get into it again and see what happens when you do feel drained.
Okay.
Because if you feel burnt out, then that feeling is real, right? It's not like
it's not made up. Like if you're tired, you're tired.
You're tired, right?
Yeah. So I guess well, if I'm tired, then does that just mean that I'm being weak? Like, because I think when you say that, majority of the time when someone says they're burnt out, they're not really burnt out. It makes it seem like, well, but you don't know what I'm doing though.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think most people believe when they're burnt out that what they need to do is they need to tail back from Christian service, Christian giving, Christian worship, Christian devotion. And this is why I believe that they are in the wrong. Okay? I mean, let's go back to Elijah's example.
Okay.
Elijah was really, really drained.
Yeah.
Okay? And Elijah was so drained, he just wanted to kill himself. He wanted to die. I mean, after he did all this, he stood against all the prophets of Baal. And then Jezebel,
that boy Ahab,
commits to killing him. Like vows. This guy's going to die. He's just done. I've had it. God, just take my life away. What does God do, though?
Doesn't he feed him?
God sends an angel. And then he gives him, what is it, biscuits?
I think like a barley thing, right? Am I lying? And this is 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 4 to 8. Reads, but he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. That's called a pongnamu in Korean? That's how I remember it, because I read it in Korean. Under a broom tree.
You're a pongnamu.
And he asked that he might die, saying, it is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. And he lay down and slept under a broom tree. And behold, an angel touched him and said to him, arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was at his head a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. And he ate and drank and lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came again a second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you. And he arose and ate and drank and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God.
Okay. And then we could go to Jesus in Gethsemane. I do believe it's in Luke, yeah?
22 verses 39 to 46. And he came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. When he came to the place, he said to them, pray that you may not enter into temptation. And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw and knelt down and prayed, saying, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. When he rose from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping for sorrow. And he said to them, why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may not enter into temptation.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as though that both Elijah and Jesus, if you look at their lives, there's some comparisons, some parallels that we could look at. Elijah was absolutely exhausted, but he had something else he had to do. He had a journey that he had to go on for 40 days before he got to Horeb, which was his purpose. Jesus also, he had a journey that he had to do, and he was completely drained. And so you see the angel of the Lord there come and give sustenance, give encouragement, give strengthening. And these people, both Jesus and Elijah, were completely drained. They were done. And yet, because they still had work to do, God would strengthen them. That's something to think about, really. And this is why I think about like people being or saying that they're burned out or burnt out. Have you been drained to that degree? Have you had everything taken out of you, sapped, your strength, your emotions? It's all gone because you laid it down and you have nothing left, but there's still work for you to do. And then you see in those cases, God would send an angel so that you would be strengthened to complete the task that was given to you. The task must be completed. There's a mission out there. When people say they're burned out, I feel as if there's a lot of things wrong with it. And we went over a whole podcast. You lost sight of the mission. Are you done? Are you down on your belly because you don't even have strength in your legs to carry yourself anymore? Are you crawling? So the imagery that I really like to keep in mind is, and some people may think that this is a little extreme, but I don't think so. We are at war, my friends. We are at war, and there is a battle ensuing. There must be some things that you have to do at this very moment in time. If you don't have that kind of mentality, if you don't understand that, and you think that you're burnt out, well, let me give a test, a quick test. How much time in a day do you feel yourself with brain rot?
Like Instagram or social
memes,
media,
social media. How
Some
much
shows
time
even.
do you use it to stare at your screen of useless things? How much time do you spend watching porn? How much time do you spend doing things that are just going to be these kind of clickers for your endorphin levels?
Yeah.
Versus what Elijah, Jesus did, preparing themselves for the ultimate battle ahead, training themselves to the very end, to their wits' end, till their strength was sapped. One really good anime or manga that I used to read was Dragon Ball, and
Z or just no Z?
I think it's called Dragon Ball.
Okay.
That was the first one.
Okay.
And then my dad and I used to read it together because it was in Korean. So I learned all these Korean curses, which was great. But my dad and I used to read it together because they would sell it in novel form, right? It would just be these little books and graphic novels, I think they call them now. And my dad and I would take turns reading, and I think the first set had like 45 books to it. So I bought all 45 books. I would buy one at a time.
Yeah.
And I would, read it. There is a universal truth that even non-Christians grab. This is I'm talking about nature here. And that's what Dragon Ball captured. I think it was Dragon Ball Z, maybe you're right. But it's what Dragon Ball captured, and that is when your strength is sapped, that means you have pushed yourself to your limits, and then you get to rest. Then that's when you achieve or attain a new level of strength. You get to the next plateau. And obviously this is, hyper romanticized in novels or books or even cartoons or anime. But that's how you grow physically. You shred, you tear your muscles, and then when you rest, your muscles start to, heal and repair itself. And then when it heals and repairs itself, you're actually stronger. When you're tired, I think the tired that people are talking about, to be honest, and I'm trying to be as fair as I can, a lot of times it's because we just sat down, and as we were sitting, our endurance, our stamina, our strength, our muscle mass, they've all been dropping for a long time. And then when we try to get up, it's like, I'm really tired, you know? My joints are achy. I don't think I could do this anymore. We've stopped growing physically. We've stopped growing mentally. But most importantly, we've stopped growing spiritually. And there is something to that we have to recognize. Some people think it's just spiritually, I'm okay. But when they've not done physical or intellectual, emotional, which I feel like is a huge disconnect. There's a study that came out that said that people have been reading less books, and that decline is on average 3%. 3% every year as the years have gone by. So every year, the people who actually read books are going down by 3%. Look at your life and ask yourself this. When's the last time you read a book? And is it going down by that statistic, or is it even greater? Because if you look at certain demographics and social groups, that number is much steeper than 3%. And look at your life. When's the last time you read something for intellectual, stimulation, growth? When's the last time you went to, it doesn't have to be the gym, but you went out for a jog to exercise? They're all connected, is my point. And most importantly, when's the last time you have used your spiritual strength? You have, gone out and exercised. And this is what I talked about when I spoke about today too, is you obeyed Christ. In obedience, you did these things that Christ commands his disciples to do. When's the last time you did that? I was like, all the time. I went to church and I sat there for 1 hour. It's like, you sat there for 1 hour doing what? Completely engrossed, engaged, saying, I'm at the edge of my seat. This is something that I have to do because this is the priority in my life. I need to do this. When's the last time you went over Philippians chapter 4? Maybe we could read that again. And I think this is an important one. Not 13, but the verses before, where it talks about excellence. And maybe you could get that and remind us of that again, starting from verse 10 to 13.
This is Philippians chapter 4, verse 10.
No, I'm sorry. Is that right? Yeah.
Verse 10 to 14. I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at length you have revived your concern for me. You are indeed concerned for me. But
I'm sorry. Can we change that to Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 to 9? That's it. 8 and 9.
This is Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 to 9. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you.
In the end, what is the ultimate battle that we are engaged in right now? It is our battle for our sanctification, our holiness. Are you engaged in it? Are you fighting the deepest sins, the dark things that are trying to take hold of you to this day? Or have you keeled over and given yourself over to those things which want to consume you instead of Christ and all the excellent things consuming your mind? Your mind is now consumed with these things that are not of Christ, and you've convinced yourself these are good things. Those are the questions we have to ask first. If you don't ask these questions first, then we're liable to think that I am good and I'm tired, therefore everyone else must be bad. It's everyone else's fault for making me this tired. Everyone's not pulling their weight. They're not doing what they need to do. Imagine people all thought like that. What kind of world would this be where it's everyone else's fault? It would be a terrible world because no one takes that personal responsibility. Then that's exactly the things that we've been, decrying against in our podcasts, where people just want to blame the system. They want to blame the government. They want to call this person a white supremacist. They want to say it's the Jews' fault. They want to say, do all these things. And no one wants to say, actually, I need to take personal responsibility. I get it that there's corruption out there, and there are some things that I could do about that, but a lot of things that I don't have control over. But what I do have control over is if I sleep on time, I wake up on time, I have control over if the first thing that I look at in the morning isn't my phone, but I give a prayer. And the first thing that I read isn't, my notifications, but it's the Word of God. The first thing that I do isn't something that's focused on the self, but it's focused on the Almighty. And so there are things that we have control over. There's a really good thing that you do for me, Sam. And that's over the summer, I ate a lot of pizza. And this was bad. This is bad because I would eat like 6 slices at a time and things like that. And you would come and say, it is your choice. You don't have to eat 6 slices.
Like at this moment right now,
as I was eating it. And I said, I don't have this choice. This pizza it's the same thing as already being in me. And I would joke like that, but it's true because the next day I would regret it. And then I would go home to my wife. My wife would say, I have zero sympathy for you because you brought this upon yourself. And what I could say is then, you guys have zero sympathy. You don't care. And then what is the tendency? I don't put the blame on myself, which it should squarely go on, but I put the blame on other people for not encouraging me enough, for not standing by my side, for not believing in me, for not doing more to stop me from eating pizza or something to that effect. That's not how we ought to live. We ought to live understanding that this is a battle. I could get into the whole excellence thing because this is something that we want to think about over and over again. But I do think, and I truly believe this, that with our generation, with the advancements of technology, with now us understanding that AI is probably going to take over 90% of the tasks that we're doing now, people will want to give up. There's something in our subconscious that just wants to give up. And yet, the people that don't give up, those are not just those people that will survive, but they will thrive, meaning they will be on the forefronts of ingenuity, advancement, and wealth, and all those things. They will be the leaders of the generation. It's a really important thing to understand that when you are faced with, looming technological change, which could lead to a great shift in the economy. And by the way, economy, when we talk about economy, I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about all of our exchange systems, how we deal with one another, and how we even communicate, how we do all. That's what economy means. And so when we see there might be something huge in the forefront, what are we doing to not just prepare ourselves, but to really take ourselves to the front lines of the battle, saying, I'm ready for this. I'm going to do this. Instead, I see other people just giving up, and they're just letting AI or whatever it is sweep over them. They'll just, there's this study that I sent you, right, about the usage of large language models. I think it was specifically ChatGPT, but the usage of LLMs, it was like yay high or whatever it was. And then once it hit June, it dropped completely. And then, I started laughing because what happens throughout the year until May and then stops in June is people cheating on their exams and papers. So you'll see all these people using LLMs to even cheat or to have it write their papers for them. And then in June, it's just a complete drop off. They're not using it anymore. And so they're letting AI sweep over them because they can't muster up the strength to go, be an innovator in a time where this technological advancement is going to really be embedded into our economy and life. But that being said, if you are someone that says, I'm tired, do I always have to fight? Isn't there a time to rest? I do want to say something before you go on. God has made it so that we will get rest, that we will get sustenance, and that we will be refreshed. That's why I take the Sunday service so seriously. When you sit down and then you sing with the saints, and this Sunday was particularly like special because we didn't have that many instruments, and I get it. People are like, "Oh, you just hate instruments. You love it when there are less." No, that's not the point. The point is, whether it's a lot of instruments or little instruments, what you can really hear are the people singing.
Yeah.
If you were at our church and you heard that, then tell me if I'm wrong. That encouraged you. That lifted your spirits. That really refreshed your souls. Hearing your neighbors, those that are around you, sing with all of their hearts. Wow, this is the glory of God. This is worship to God. And doesn't that really lift your soul up? Doesn't that encourage you?
Yeah.
Doesn't that refresh you? Doesn't that give you a sustenance? Because that's what God intended when he ordained this kind of Christian worship service. And secondly, you hear the word preached, and you know that it's not simply the preacher, but the Holy Spirit has empowered the preacher, and he's giving you the exact words that he wants the saints to hear. And then your spirit is also incredibly lifted up, and it is encouraged. It is, boosted up. It is girded up by the word. And then you end that service, and then you're ready to go do it again. And that's why I don't think we should take the worshiping of the saints lightly. When you are there, know that this is something that God has set apart for the saints, for our benefit. His glory, yes, but our benefit. And this is why I don't understand why people will come and sit in service and then like zone out or not participate, not sing as loudly as you can. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you sing, I'm not saying scream, but you would sing as best and project as best you can, because this is what we've been commanded to do. And when I see things like that, that refreshes you. You feel great. I'm to be honest, I'm right now, even with our podcast recording, I'm going on about 3 hours of sleep last night. And
I should have texted you last night. I was going to text you late, but then I realized I thought you might be sleeping.
It's weird because the whole ZMO thing, I wake up even though I had 3 hours of sleep, I woke up 2 times in between of 3 hours to pee, because you have to drink 12 ounces of water before the ZMO, and you have to take the ZMO before you go to bed. So, but the magnesium does give you some vivid dreams.
Is that what it does?
Yeah.
It made me knock out. It makes me knock out.
But, even if I am physically, spiritually, what God does, and this is what he has, again, this is what he has ordered, intended, you become refreshed. And I wish people would really, understand that this is what God has for us. I do believe that in the worship service, angels are present. Look at 1 Corinthians 11. Why should we do something? Because of the angels, right?
Right.
Why should women, have a head covering? Because of the angels.
Yeah.
And so we won't get into head coverings today, but
that is a question.
We could. But I do believe that that's the case, because we are brought into the presence of God with his angels. This is something incredible, and I hope people see that. I guess the question I'll leave with you is, do you understand the limits that you have? So for people that believe that they are tired or depressed, or you can even use the word burnt out, do you understand what limits you have? And have you gone to that limit? Or are you just afraid of going to the limit? Or are you for some reason you're scared? Or your muscles are in such atrophy that you can't even think about pushing yourself to the limits, because you can't even do the bare minimum of, Christian service, Christian worship, Christian duty. And so those are things that I would probably want to ask myself. If you are tired, know that there are promises given to us in the word for those that are tired. But I would say, check yourself first. See if there's a sin that you've given into. See if there's, something else that you've given into like brain rot. You're scrolling through your phone for like 1 or 2 hours of useless stuff before you go to bed instead of sleeping. The first thing that you do when you wake up is more brain rot, more things that will, kind of give you those endorphin hits. And so what you are actually not doing is training and readying yourself for battle. And when the battle comes, you're already winded before the battle starts.
So, what if someone were to respond by saying, I understand the example that you use of Elijah and Jesus, that although they were tired, God strengthened them to do their job. God strengthened them to do the will of God, that to obey, right? Me not going to AMP once doesn't necessarily mean I'm not obeying. What if someone were to say, but that's their job though, that's their calling, that's their conviction, that's God's will and plan for them, that's their role. But for me, for example, summer is coming to a close. We had a lot of different events for our church during the summer, and fall is fast approaching us. We have new programs, new events. Gravitas Edify are always meeting. Youth is meeting. New small group and family group signups going up. And we have outdoor fellowship happening soon. And this is just from our church, right? But with all these events happening, including the regular Saturday morning prayer, people might think, do I really, can I just miss this one? I'm tired. I've been on rotation for a ministry 5 weeks in a row, and I'm exhausted. I have my own work. I have my own family. I have my responsibility as church, and I'm just so tired. Do I have to go to this? Do I have to go to that? Why can't I just relax and rest at home? Is it such a bad thing for me to not do small group this time, not do family group this time? Like, is that me not following God's command? Because I can see your argument for Elijah and Jesus, but for me, I just want to take this time and just rest.
Yeah. Again, I said it before, but it's rest from Christian duty. And look, I think there are times where it can be called for us to maybe take a Sabbath. I think we get there too quickly in our generation. I think we get there without understanding what rest is. I think we get there and think not of this as a temporary, definitive moment, but more like an indefinite departure until I'm ready to come back, instead of give me an hour, I'll be okay. I get it. We talk about like a lot of things, but I think broadly speaking, there are a lot of parallels that we can see even from nature to the spiritual life. Let's say your goal is, Sam, to bench press 315 for 5.
I haven't done that one yet.
That was kind of cool.
I knew you were going to say 315, and so I was going to say I've done it, but not 5.
But let's say that's your goal.
Okay.
Right? That's not your ultimate goal, but it's one of the temporary goals that you have. To get there, maybe you have a workout regimen, and then let's say you're putting up like 275 for 5 by 5 or something for now. Okay?
Yeah. Good
so
stuff.
You do 275, and then you're pushing this weight 5 times. You don't immediately go on to the next set.
No.
You rest. You rest a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is. You rest, and then your body composes itself, so you do the next set or the next exercise, physically speaking. Now let me go to the intellectual side. Some people can read books for hours on end. Some people cannot, right? Some people can read books for 10 minutes. And then they start drifting off because they haven't read that much. They're the people that lift like 95 or something like that, if that, maybe bar. So they read the book for 10 minutes. What happens if you lifted the bar and you did 10 reps and then you went home? The answer is nothing. You will not get stronger. Your goal of reaching 315 for 5 is never, it's not going to get there.
Yeah.
So people read, and they read for 10 minutes. It's like, oh, wow, I really zoned out there. I dozed off. And they don't get back on the horse. So what you need to do is, this is just basic wisdom, okay? You read for 10 minutes, and then because you can't focus, like these 10 minutes, I'm going to focus as hard as I can. I'm going to read 10 minutes. I'm going to read at a pace that I know I won't drift off. I'm going to establish that pace. it's going to be purposeful. And, I'm going to give you the book, How to Read a Book. There's a book, How to Read a Book, that I recommend. And then you could do that. And then you rest your eyes for 5 minutes. And then you get back 10 minutes. Rest your eyes for 5 minutes. Even if you did that in an hour, you would have been reading for about 40 minutes is the point, right? Yeah. You read for 40 minutes in an hour. That's 40 minutes of knowledge that you've taken in. As time goes on, maybe you could do 20 minutes in a row, an hour in a row, 2 hours in a row. But guess what? Everybody still needs to take a quick break. So maybe you read for an hour straight, which is, I think, a good, place to be at. And then you take a 10-minute break. You rest your eyes. You kind of think about, all the things that I've learned. You recall the things that I've learned and that you've read. And then you get back to it. And then you read for another hour. And then soon, before you know it, you've been reading for 4 hours. And in 4 hours, you would have read at a good pace. You would have read maybe half the book or even the entire book. Mm-hmm. And then in that 4 hours, you've just finished a book. You've completed the book. Now let's get to the spiritual level. What are you resting for? This is what people can't make that connection. What are you resting for? Are you resting indefinitely saying, when I'm ready, I'll get back in again? That's like you lifting the bar and then leaving the gym. That's like you reading a book for 10 minutes and then you kind of drifting off and then closing the book, putting it to the side, and then watching brain rot again. That's not going to help. So when you say, I'm tired, what are you tired from? Are you tired from the spiritual Christian duty that you have to do? Then rest so you could get back to it so that you could do it better. So if it's like, man, I was really drained by, really loving on this person. It really took a lot out of me. Good. Because it does drain you, right? Especially those that are in need, especially those that are younger in the faith, especially those that are immature. They drain you. That's a fact of life. So you go and you give, and then you take a break. You take rest. Why? So you could get back to serving. And guess what happens? You get better, you get stronger, you get more patient, you get more wise, your words are more apt. You get to love better. But when people say, I want to take a break, I don't think they have that in mind is my point. I don't think what you are saying, so this is my challenge is, I don't think what you're saying is, Piyush, I did like 10 reps. Can I take a minute? Because I would be like, yeah, man, take a minute and let's get back on it. I'll be right here to spot you again.
Yeah.
Because what's the goal? The goal was for you to bench 315 for 5. That was the goal. If that's not your goal, then I don't care what you do. Do whatever. But the Christians have a goal, and it's to love as Christ has loved us. It's to serve as Christ has loved us. You know what kind of goal that is? That's way more than 315 for 5. It's way more. What are you resting for? What are you taking a break from? To do what? Is it to get back on the horse, to get back on it so that you can serve better, more efficiently, more effectively in expressing your love for the people that are around you? Or is it just to, be proud of yourself? You like, I did 10, I'm done, I'm out. And then you just stare at the mirror for like 6 hours. And so is that what you want to do? Is it so that you could read 10 minutes of a book? Is like, well, I tried. And then maybe you tell people, I read this book, but you only read 10 minutes. I think one of my favorite lines from the movie, the show Office, one of my more favorite lines, I should say, was when Michael's at the bar. It's not a really good scenario, but he's like, have you read this book? And he goes, read it, I own it. Yeah. But no, I have not read it. But I think that's our life. Our life is like Michael Scott, where we own all these books, but we have not read it. Our Christian life is like Michael Scott, where we know all the things that we have to do. Know it? Oh, yeah, I know it. But have I done it? I haven't done it. And I think that's to our shame. That's to our detriment. That's our loss. Because the blessings that God has in store for us is to do these things. You know how elated you are when you first did 315? You know how elated, you remember that? You know how much more greater your elation is when you fulfill and continue on those sanctification goals that you have? So let me be the first one then, if you've not heard this before, to encourage you, brother, encourage you, sister, keep at it. And if you think that you need rest, that's the question. Rest from what? Rest for what? And that's why I don't have that much time, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you streamline your priorities. You know, the more pinched you are, the more pressed you are, the more you have to make these like really extreme decisions. Let's say you're watching this movie and then you know that the protagonist, he's surrounded by the enemy. He's pinned down and they're shooting heavy gunfire at him. And you know the protagonist is going to get out of the situation. But you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't think, oh man, I wonder what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. That would be the most ridiculous thing to do. You know that guy's dead if he does that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish, the sun was a little less hot today. That's not what they think about. They think about the current scenario and they prioritize, okay, if I do this, this is going to happen. Then he does this, then he does this. There's an order that plays out, even if it's something as ridiculously as spectacular as one of these superhero movies, right? There's still an order of what they do to take out the enemies or the bad guys, right? Or to get themselves out of a bind. I don't see why we don't relate that to our spiritual life, When you are pressed, when you feel like you have less time, you have more responsibilities, and you are surrounded, then what is it that you do? You start to prioritize really hard. These are my ultimate priorities. I need to do. I need to complete. I have to do this. Because the more pressed you are, the more you recognize this is life and death now. When you're not pressed, go have some dinner, go to a nice restaurant. When you're pressed with enemy gunfire, you're not thinking about, man, maybe I could try this restaurant and that restaurant. Maybe I could go on a food tour. That's not the things that you think about.
Yeah.
You think about, this is the ultimate priority. If you did think about those things, you'd be considered a fool. You'd be considered a fool when you are in the middle of a battle and war and you're thinking about unnecessary things. That's why when you go into it, you shed off all unnecessary. Paul talks about it. You shed off all unnecessary weight so that you can run the race to win. That's the attitude the Christian is to have, because he recognizes and she recognizes that all these things in nature are pointing to the ultimate reality of our spiritual warfare, of the sanctification that we must have. Now, I get it. There are lapses at times. We're not perfect. And that's why I think the encouragement of the saints are so necessary. My friend, this is why you have to participate. You have to be there. There needs to be maybe not, entirely skinship, but skinship in the sense where you bump up into each other, you see each other's eyeballs, and you encourage each other. You worship God together. This is why spending time together is so important with the saints. You barely do it for an hour on Sunday. Are you kidding me? Find more times to do it. One of the luckiest people, and people recognize this in our church, one of the luckiest group of people will tell me, is the staff. Because we get to stay together. We get to encourage each other constantly. Why? For the work that is ahead. We don't just encourage each other like we're getting endorphin hits. That's not why we encourage each other. We encourage each other because of the work ahead of us, so that we could do good work, so that the output that we have, the expressions that we have, they are excellent. That's why we meet together. That's why we brush up against each other. You're coming together on a Sunday for 1 hour, maybe 1.5 if you stay for the food, and then you're thinking, oh man, why am I so not, filled? And you can't think, and you don't think that this might be one of the primary reasons. And then you're asking me a question like, do I have to come out on EMP on Saturdays to pray? Look, if I were you and I understood the reality of the situation, of how pinned you are, how busy you are, you would spend more time at church praying with the saints. You would spend more time listening to the word. You would be looking out because the priority is there. I need to get to this level. I'm being pressed. I need to shed all extraneous weight because that's going to keep me from running and winning the prize. And so that's the attitude that I would have. And this is why, when I think about the battle that we have in front of us, I see so many people instead giving up, giving in. You know what that is? It's sad for me to say, you know what that is? Those are people on the wide road, the easy road. That's the easy road to let the tide take you. And Jesus says, you need to go to the narrow road. But he uses a word there. He says, you need to strive. That word for strive is to give everything you've got. Why do you have to work so hard if you've been saved? People think, why do I have to work so hard if I'm already saved? Why don't I just take it easy? Why do I have to work so hard? Those are the people on the wide road. That should be a scary thought. If you think that you can just survive on brain rot, or watching pornography whenever you want, you can stare at the screen for 2 hours at a time, 3 hours, 4 hours, just, flipping up or down or left or right, whatever it is that we do now. And then you're letting everything else atrophy. I have to tell you, that's not the narrow road. That's not the narrow road. That means you're on the wide road, and that should be a wake-up call for you to get off of that road. Like Pilgrim's Progress, you got to get on that road again. It's easy to get on the wide road. It really is. And so let this serve not just as a warning, but as an encouragement. If you feel pressed, then good, because that's when you start to understand, I need to shed this extraneous weight so that I can be more sleek, I can be faster, that I can really run so that I can win. And I think that's a good thing then, if you're feeling pressed.
So in response to this, I think someone could say, okay, I understand what you're saying, and I understand that resting is for a purpose. You're resting for something. And I see that, if I am in this place, it could possibly be pointing to a spiritual condition that I'm in. And if I understand that meeting with the saints and having fellowship with the saints is a way that I can get refreshed and strengthened, obviously outside of our spiritual disciplines as well. But what if we were to go back to the gym illustration? What if I know that I have to work out? I have to run. I get it. I shouldn't be eating this junk food. I shouldn't be, laying down on the couch. I should get moving. But I'm in a place where I don't know if I can get up right now. Like, I just can't get up. How would you encourage that person, even after everything that you've said, because you've given us just reason after reason and reason why we shouldn't be sitting on the couch right now, why we should be getting up, and even as we're sitting on the couch, the purpose of sitting on the couch. But it's just so hard to take that first step off the couch. How can you help us? How can you encourage us as members that may be having trouble with just getting out of this place of tiredness? Because oftentimes, I think even being tired can be a what's the thing where it's like you say it, and the more you say it, the more tired you get? Self-fulfilling prophecy. Junseok just came in and just started dropping dimes. He just walked in, just dropping. And so
this is because he preached at an OPC church.
Probably. He's all fired up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Spirit of God.
But it's like you're speaking it into existence in a sense. So how can we get off the couch? How can we take these baby steps to really just get going, like you said?
I think this is why we need the saints. This is why I really look. I didn't get to look. This is a very broad topic that you bring up because there are legitimate injuries that could take place.
Yep.
You could actually have a disability. Physically speaking, spiritually speaking, there can be injuries. But I'm like, injuries from what? Like, how embarrassing is it if your injury is from like tripping on a rock instead of actual gunfire? But that can actually take place. You should be a little embarrassed, but then the injury has to heal so that you could get back to it. So there are things that we could have talked about. A great book I think I would recommend, again, is Spiritual Depression by Martin Lloyd-Jones. And, you could read just even the first 5 chapters. It's great. Second chapter especially awesome.
MLJ.
Yeah, and so read that book. Get that in you. Preach to yourself. And understand, the importance of, making sure that your spirit is lifted up so that you can do Christian work. But if you are tired and you think you're legitimately tired, then good. You gave it your all. Great. But then like, no. This is beyond that. I'm not just tired, I'm drained. I think that's the statement that I think I am hearing when someone would have said that to me, or if someone would say that to me. I'm just drained. I have nothing more to give. And I'm telling you, that's not true. Nothing more to give could be something like demoralization, like you're just demoralized. You forgot the goal, or you feel like the goal is too far-fetched. Going to your gym example, we could go to any example, like, the book example and all that stuff too, but going back to your gym example, how many times have you actually helped a beginner try to train, only when you train them, the next day they don't want to come back? They're like, I'm good, I'm just really sore, I'm just going to take it easy. And then you think in your head, you should do
I
the
hate
exact...
this person. Oh.
Okay. You think in your head, I'm talking specifically about you.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, that's the last thing you should do.
I think to myself, I hate this person.
Because
Yeah.
he's wasted your time. But this is really bad for them.
Yeah.
I think this is why you need the saints. God has not left us to our own devices. God has given us the church. You need the saints to encourage each other. You'll have me too. If you're part of our church, I can, give you a stern talking to if you need. Stop missing AMP. Stop making excuses, especially if you are an officer or something to that effect. But not just an officer. If you're just a member of the church, you should come and pray. Gather with the saints. After we actually have coffee and like bagels, we don't have to have that, but we do.
Donuts sometimes as well.
Yeah, that's a bit much when we do donuts.
I don't need it. I'm just saying.
Trying to give everyone type 2 diabetes in our church if we do donuts. But even bagels, it's just all carbs, But then, eggs are expensive. But that's the thing. We have fellowship after. People stay till like 10:30, 11. Even if they don't have a meeting, if they have a meeting, they'll stay longer.
Yeah.
But they stay till like 10:30, 11.
Oh, yeah.
And our prayer service is at 8.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come before 8 and stay for like 2.5 hours. Even though the prayer service is just an hour. And so this is where the saints encourage each other. You talk about your lives. You try to see how you can pray for them. Obviously, this is done organically, not like formulaically, like, tell me about your life. That's not exactly how it goes down.
Right.
And so I would say this is why you need each other. This is why I need you, Sam, and you need me. To encourage each other. We need to be there for each other because that's how God has set this church up.
Right.
We have been called out of the world to Christ together. It's not, we have been called out of the world. It's not ecclesia called out of the world to Christ alone, separately. So we've been called together as a church. And so I hope people recognize that and, come out to whatever church. You don't go to CGS, you go to another church, fine. Go to your Sunday service, stay as long as you can. Get fed. No one talks to you, that's fine.
You should go talk to them.
That's fine, right? See whose foot you can wash.
Yeah.
And see how you can serve others. And so that's what you should be doing. And, that this is the attitude, this is the mind that we should have, like Philippians 2. We should have the mind of Christ when we do it. And so I hope that's what you take out from it. If you feel like you're really tired, you're really drained, I would say staying away from the saints is the worst possible thing. Oh, you're tired from, that one day of working out. The worst thing is not to go back to the gym again. The best thing is to get your body moving, go back to the gym, and work on getting that lactic acid out of your body because you got to move to get that acid out. Otherwise, that acid stays for days and you're sore for like weeks. But then if you move, that lactic acid moves out of your body. That's why people who work out consistently aren't sore they don't have that lactic acid in there, so they're not sore like other people who work out one day and then don't work out for a few weeks. And then you'll never build muscle, you'll just have a negative view of the gym and things like that. Like I said, we could put it to any natural occurrence that is good because God has ordered the world according to his character. So whether it's physical, intellectual, it should point to the ultimate reality, which is spiritual.
I think that's really helpful. Anyone that's listening to this podcast, you could always encourage somebody. You could always pray for your friend, your fellow member, your fellow man. I think that's a great way of just thinking about it. Is we are there to encourage, to edify, to lift up, and to really love, like you said today in the sermon, to wash each other's feet. And so,
Can I give
reminder.
you a little extra? This is my personal thoughts now.
Oh yeah.
So I've given
Always.
you some general principles, and I hope that was edifying. My personal thoughts are we should strive to live closer to each other. This is my personal
like
thoughts.
geographically.
I don't know what other...
No, like it could
Aspect
be
that
like
you could think.
emotionally, like be close, relationally, but you
Yeah.
meant like geography.
Like geographically, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clearing that one.
But I live the
In-
furthest
in
away
case-
from
in case
everybody
people-
else.
Well, so let's say we take the house of worship as the center.
Yeah,
We should all try to, as time goes on, try to get closer to there.
yeah,
So that it's not like an hour to get to a church service and an hour to get back or something like that. 2 hours, that's too far. I get it. If it's the best church out there, you're willing to drive an hour and this is a home that you have, that's something that you have to do. But again, this is my personal thoughts. You want to be close to the people that you love.
Yeah.
You want to be close to the people that have promised and covenanted to make sure that you stay the course, that have promised to help you out and support you in your journey of sanctification. You don't want to be far away. There are times when you're going to have bouts of depression. 100%. 100%. You know who we should be thinking about? We should be thinking about those that, maybe because my wife is about to give birth, but postpartum depression is real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
Women go through it. You know, it's the worst when they're alone, when they're so far away from everybody else. They have no one to encourage them. That actually makes me sad, even now thinking about it. But guess what happens when people are closer together? You just drop by, like, how can I help you? You know what? Here's some seaweed soup. It's like a Korean thing. They always eat the seaweed soup, but whatever. Here's chicken noodle soup, whatever it is, right?
chicken noodle soup with the soda on the side.
No. But you could do that when you're less than 20 minutes away, is my point. You can encourage each other because there will be times when you will be depressed. And so don't you want someone close by to help you? Someone that you could just call and say, hey, I could use a prayer right now. This is something that's going on, but I want to get better so that I can be an
Yeah.
encouragement to others. Not just so that I can continually stay in this depressed state, so that now I can encourage others.
Right.
So that, when time comes, I'm the one bringing the seaweed soup or chicken noodle soup with the soda on the side.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, they listened to the podcast, it's like, you guys always make these Gen Z references.
Oh, I don't think this is a Gen Z one. I think this was like a millennial one.
Hood classic.
Okay, I wouldn't say that.
Brian said it's a hood classic. But yeah, I mean, it's basically this is my personal opinion. You love someone, you want to be close to them. We love each other in church. I would say try to be close. And people on Sundays, I really am encouraged. The younger folk, they like hang out together. Even after Sunday, they go to like Van Dyke's to get ice cream or something.
But what if I'm introverted? Are you saying that introversion is a sin?
No, if you're introverted, you don't want to talk. You don't want
just be
people
there.
Yeah, but introverted people just want to be there.
Really?
I don't think introverted.
I'm pretty.
No.
No, I'm pretty though.
Yeah, even introverted people want to be with other people. They just don't want to be bothered. They just stick around.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why people think they're weirdos.
Ew, I don't like that one. I'm not a weirdo. Do you think
What?
Do you think? So it's not so it's not a sin to be introverted. That's good to know for all my introverts out there. You ain't sitting in this one.
Introvert. Never mind.
What's MBTI? Mass.
Myers Briggs. Mass.
People think like, because I'm an introvert, like I'm naturally this way.
Yeah. So what Junsuck just kind of honestly rudely interrupted. So what I wanted to say was, people that are introverted might think, well, I'm just this way. Are you saying that I have to change myself for other people? Like I'm more comfortable this way. Why can't other people be more introverted like me and just come stand next to me? Like, why do I have to go over there? Like, why do I have to change? Why do I have to do this?
Yeah, extroverted people need to take time to listen better. Introverted people need to make an effort to reach out more. And that's how you love. You love by sacrifice and getting stretched. And you think about the other person. You don't think about just you being fulfilled. So whether you're introverted, extroverted, it's just, it's an excuse if you classify yourself and not do the things that you're supposed to do.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to go into Q&A now, if that's all right.
We need a beat.
What you got in the bag? What you got in the bag?
What you got in the bag?
This question, I just have one. And that question is, can Reformed Christians fellowship with non-Reformed Christians? If we are to understand that if we're to understand that Reform means biblical, and we stand by that, can we fellowship with non-Reformed Christians, and to what extent?
I think the answer is in the question. If they're a Christian, you cannot fellowship with them. If they're heretics, they're not Christians.
But what if they're kind of whack, though?
Like whack in what sense? You don't like their style?
Like fashion-wise?
Yeah.
No, I love their style.
Okay. You don't like their views on architecture?
No, it's just they're a little iffy on doctrine.
Like they pick Northern Gothic as their
No, that's fine.
go-to.
No.
architecture.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think I'm more thinking of because we have been, I guess, studying Reformed doctrine a lot, we tend to get into this tunnel of this is the right way and this is it. Like this is the biblical interpretation and this is what is correct and you have to follow it this way. How much can we fellowship with people that are not in that camp? And so I'll give you just an example. We talked about cessationism the other day. How much can we fellowship with continuationists? How much can we fellowship with Methodists who believe that you can lose your salvation? How much can we fellowship with Baptists even who don't believe in infant baptism and have a different polity? Like, how do we fellowship with people that are following views that we do not think are biblical?
Well, let's get to the first part. If they're Christian, you can have fellowship. If you disagree with someone, you can still have fellowship. In fact, you should have fellowship. It shouldn't break fellowship because you disagree with someone on, let's say, politics or
right.
We talk about secondary, tertiary matters, but on things that are not of primary importance, I'll say that. How about that? And so you could absolutely have fellowship. When we see a Reformed brother, man, our hearts leap with joy because we're so in line. I remember in your new place of work when someone had your own political beliefs.
Yes.
This person was ecstatic. In the end, not everybody has to agree with me to attend CGS.
No.
Not on everything. But there are some foundational doctrines that you have to adhere to if you want to obviously attend. And to have, a certain level of fellowship, then it depends on what level. So if you're talking about, let's say, egalitarians giving communion to complementarians, I don't think complementarians will take it. Right? You know what I mean? They won't take communion from, let's say, a woman who calls herself a pastor.
Yeah.
And, at the same time, a Baptist won't give communion to a Presbyterian who was baptized as an infant.
Right.
And so those are things that you'll see where, as you continue to get closer and closer to the table, there are going to be some separations. That's why we see denominations and such. It's inevitable. We'll know what's true at the end.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have that than some false sense of unity that, let's say, the Roman Church purports. there are so many factions in the Roman Church, or the Roman Catholics, that people think that there is this unity that the Romans hold, when in fact that they already also have. Obviously, they are not like publicized. They're not formalized, but there are factions where there really is a conservative group in the among the Romans, and then so they really vehemently disagree. Let's say, for instance, with Pope Francis, but for the sake of unity, they'll hold it together, and they'll try to make inlays with whatever group they can possibly. So I'm talking about, like, I'd rather have these disagreements out there and then debated, rather than just kind of hiding it and keeping a facade of unity. That's why I really like Protestantism, to be honest. Some people are really, really discouraged by the many denominations that they see, especially with the false ones standing out. But I would say that it's just reality, because we live in a fallen world. And so how can you have fellowship? Oh, you can have fellowship. You could definitely have fellowship even if you disagree with someone, or if someone disagrees with you. I would still think that the point is to encourage that person.
Gotcha.
So when I have fellowship with, let's say, a non-reformed person, it's to have them be reformed.
Yeah.
I'll share the joys of the Reformed faith, or the biblical faith, as we also know it as. That's what I would do.
Gotcha. That's helpful for everyone.
I saw a movie this past week. I don't watch movies. I don't have much time, but this past week I was able to muster up a few minutes at a time to finish watching a movie.
Minecraft.
So I watched it in clumps. I saw this movie from 2021 called Nobody. It wasn't. Look, I didn't want to watch it. It didn't look appealing. But after I finished watching it, I was like, this is pretty good. It's very gory. There's a lot of violence.
You lost me.
Fights everyone, right?
You lost me.
Yeah, but I thought it resonated with what modern man has lost. It's a thing between the violence in a man versus him wanting to keep a family. It's almost like it's contrasted.
I was like John Wick.
He doesn't have a family though. He's just violent.
With his dog, though.
He does have a dog,
Got his dog with him.
but his dog dies.
Whoa, that's a
That's a spoiler for the first movie, which came out like 15 years ago or something.
happens within the first 10 minutes of the movie. Like, whoa.
It's like synopsis. of the movie.
Yeah.
Crime legend.
That's a spoiler.
He has to kill his own dog, right? Will Smith. Thank you for that, Pastor Eugene. I think that's really helpful, and it's we should have fellowship with everyone, reformed or non-reformed. So it's helpful for us because Baptists aren't really reformed technically. Non-denoms technically aren't reformed, but we are Presbyterian though. Like our trajectory is looking
I
bright.
don't know if Brian's going to hold any of this. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm in like a weird place right now.
Because it's about to end. He doesn't want it to end because he has to go back to his tiredness.
No, I'm not tired. I'm energized. I had a ghost. Thank you, Pastor Eugene. And we thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. Keep the faith.
Peace.